Not much sun left. I'm making the most of it. Down at the beach. And I wanted to talk more into, I talked about the shame of my relationship. Oh, it's a bit windy. The shame of my relationship that was the same age as my father, but it actually taught me a lot about life. And when it first started, I was from Newcastle. I was on my own. I'd split up with my boyfriend I moved down there with, and I was probably 21, I think. So he must have been like 35 years older than me. And I got into his world of money. Not that much money, but it depends. It's all relative, isn't it? Yeah, but he was upper class, I guess. And he, being like a father to me, taught me how to use cutlery, apparently, and my manners. And so I was changed. Who I was changed to fit in with him, because he thought he was doing so well. He'd never had kids. He still was married, but he and his wife lived lived sort of separate lives pretty much. Well, they still live in the same house, but they had their own rooms, and sometimes together, sometimes not. But so I was the other woman that a lot of his friends knew about. Trying to think of how long I was with him for, because I never lived with him. Probably about 16 years, I think it was. I lived like that. For the first 6 years, I didn't even tell my family that I was with him. I was that ashamed, and I wasn't close to my family at the time. I've only become close to my family since about 2020, and of course I was doing letting go of resentment, sort of a inner work sort of course, and I discovered the gift of family. Before that, I'd only come to Newcastle for birthdays or Mother's Day or something like that, depending on where I was living and who I was with and what time I had. I didn't even go for every Christmas, but I'd come for a few days and then leave again. So I'd only come a few times a year, really. So karma's getting me back, and I've been here on and off for a year now. Yeah, I knew I'd never live here again once I was fully entrenched in Sydney, and then I kept chasing the sun, chasing the warmth, going further north and further north, ending up at the Sunshine Coast. But yes, I guess it was an indoctrination in a way to fit in. We only hung out with people that were like us. Both of my relationships with older men were like that. There was a little tolerance of people like me, of course, who have a free lifestyle, hippie kind of person. They wouldn't have liked that. I wouldn't have liked that. I wouldn't have talked to them. Yes, cutlery manners, all sorts of manners, even things I said. My speech, certain phrases I used were drilled out of me because you weren't allowed to say that. He's passed now, been dead for a few years, but he had a very, very interesting life. And the reason I know there's a genocide now on in Palestine is because of him being he was in a concentration camp as a child. He was born in Prague, in Czech Republic, and when he was a young boy, he was in the winter. As a Jew, they were in concentration camps with hardly any food, and they're starving the Palestinians right now and committing war crimes that will one day be somebody has to pay for those one day, or be made accountable for those one day. Anyway, certainly know what that's all about. I went to Prague with him more than 30 years ago when the Berlin Wall had just come down, and it was just a couple of months after, and it was mainly Europeans there. There was only one hotel where I could stay. He stayed with his mother, who was much older than him. She was about 90, I think. Anyway, she couldn't speak a word of English. And he ended up getting properties that had been confiscated by the communists returned to him for the family. So we had a little house sort of thing in Prague. He renovated it and I spent a lot of time there. 6 weeks one time I was around there and around the country. That's just a little snippet. He used to race cars, historic racing cars, so I was involved in car clubs and all sorts of things. I've always loved cars and driving. Got little birds all around me here, it's beautiful. Different small birds on this little coastal area. Anyway, I think that that's enough for now. It's gone all over the place. I wasn't expecting it to go. I was just mainly going to talk about the cutlery and and the way I changed to fit in. I seem to just fit out now, just being me, and don't always fit in with some people, but I'm just being who I am. Freezing cold in Newcastle with the last of the sun and my barefoot boots that people think might be strange, but they're the shape of my feet, not of shoes. I've only got 2 pairs and my op-shop skirt. Anyway, as the sun almost disappears, I'm going to get back in Venus and warm up.